I think that the turning point for us was the 60s when West Monterey Neighbors did what it did and saying no, there will be no panic selling in this community. And I think the fact that we pride ourselves with our diversity, it sends a signal to the world that this is a safe place to be.
In 1933, the Federal Homeowners Loan Corporation designed a new system, amortized mortgages with regular payments. This allowed more people to be homeowners. Some neighborhoods were deemed unfit for these mortgages, usually neighborhoods with minorities. Homeowners became afraid that if they lived in neighborhoods with many minorities, the mortgages would not apply to them and their property values would decrease. After World War II, many whites, in search of the American dream, moved out to the suburbs. Blacks were barred from suburban neighborhoods, both by the residents and by federal agencies, even after this was declared illegal by the Supreme Court. From 1950 to 1970, almost 7 million white urban residents moved to the suburbs, while blacks were left in the increasingly poor urban neighborhoods. Realtors used the practice of blockbusting, also called panic peddling. Blockbusting is the practice of getting white people to sell their houses quickly and cheaply out of fear that their property value would severely decrease if blacks moved in. Many realtors refused to sell to blacks, so they were forced to buy the overpriced houses that were the only ones available.
In those days, when African Americans moved to Lincoln Drive, professionals, like Lord, who else could afford to be there except professionals? But when they moved to Lincoln Drive, it created a panic. And those were the days when, in the early 60s, when there was a lot of panic selling. Yeah. And realtors actually were promoting this because realtors were making a lot of money with all this turnover. But they were frightening people. Black folks are coming, here they come, you know. And so West Monterey Neighbors took a stand and said, no, you won't do that in this neighborhood.
Mount Airy is a small neighborhood in northwest Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In the 1950s, 3 nearby religious organizations, the Church of Epiphany, the Unitarian Church of Germantown, and the Germantown Jewish Center, worked to make black residents feel welcome and accepted. They also worked to keep white residents from fleeing. In 1959, George Shermer, the founder of the Commission on Human Relations, talked to the religious organizations and formed WMAN, West Mount Airy Neighbors. Because of WMAN, Mount Airy became a racially diverse neighborhood, remaining half white and half black for 4 census periods. Not only was Mount Airy able to be stably integrated, it was also the first neighborhood in America to become integrated deliberately through work from the residents and members of WMAN. Rabbi Cherry, the rabbi at the Germantown Jewish Center, believed that all people deserve to be treated decently. He, along with Leon McGill, a resident of Mount Airy, went door to door to encourage residents not to sell and informed them that their property values would not go down when African Americans moved in. Both men strove to keep West Mount Airy a tightly knit, strong community, welcoming any newcomers, no matter their race or color. Doris Polsky, a real estate broker, moved to Mount Airy in 1943 with her twin sister and her brother. Through her job, she worked to keep Mount Airy diverse 1 block at a time by carefully selling to certain people. If a block started to get too segregated, she would talk to the neighborhood and sell a house to someone of a different race. This helped in diversifying the community. Isidor Gottlieb, one of the founders of WMAN, spoke at a meeting at the Norristown State Hospital in 1964. In his speech, he assured people that black residents moving in did not lower property values and encouraged other neighborhoods to follow Mount Airy's example in desegregation. In 1973, Curtis Ponce, the Pennsylvania Deputy Attorney General, worked with WMAN to stop blockbusting. He handed out brochures and filed complaints to real estate agencies that were creating panic. Laura Morris Sienna started working for WMAN in 1989. She worked not only to keep Mount Airy integrated, but also to increase financial strength, international policies, and the effectiveness of resources and communication within the community. Because of the work of these individuals and many other members of WMAN as well as the community, Mount Airy soon became a thoroughly integrated neighborhood. In 1966, WMAN successfully convinced 29 real estate firms to sign a code of ethical real estate practices. The code was made to stop blockbusting. It stated that real estate brokers will not criticize neighborhoods because blacks move in. Brokers will not use the process of panic selling. They will not hint that homeowners should sell immediately to get the full value of their property. And they will not put up fraudulent for sale signs or other signs that imply white flight. An important part of WMAN's work was making West Mount Airy such an attractive place to live that no whites wished to leave when blacks moved in. The organization cooperated with local businesses and groups like the Allens Lane Art Center, Mount Airy Learning Tree, and the Weaver's Way Food Co-op to make the neighborhood a more exciting place to live. WMAN also created and distributed brochures detailing the benefits of living in Mount Airy, including the many parks and outdoor activities in the area. The brochures also discussed the range of housing types from rows and twins to mansions, which many found attractive. WMAN was also active in diversifying public schools in the area. The group requested that the Pennsylvania Board of Education help integrate schools. In 1962, school boundary lines were changed to allow a wider variety of students to attend.
We were attracted to the neighborhood because of the parks and the trees.
Mount Airy had a real sense of community and diversity, and that was really important to us.
I, for one, think it's very important for our kids to be able to talk with and interact with a lot of different people. I mean, that's the way that life works. And I think it teaches you something about how you need to be in this world.
We've raised 2 children here in West Mount Airy, and I think it's been very good for them to see the diversity in West Mount Airy, both racially, as I've said, and economically, to see different people from different walks of life with different backgrounds, and to see them all living together harmoniously, and I think that's been very beneficial for them.
WMAN rose to national attention in 1962 when they hosted a United Nations weekend. They invited diplomats and their staffs to come and stay with a member of the organization for the weekend to see what it was like for an average person to live in the U.S. by attending events on American culture and relaxing in their hosts' homes. Over 200 people from 31 countries showed up for the event, including ambassadors from Ecuador, the Dominican Republic, Madagascar, and Yemen, as well as many reporters. The Philadelphia Inquirer, Philadelphia Bulletin, and New York Times all published articles about the UN weekend. While at the event, reporters saw the integration in Mount Airy. The Christian Science Monitor wrote a series of articles about Mount Airy's diversity, and the U.S. News and World Report used an article written about Mount Airy's integration as its cover story. Mount Airy was also recognized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as one of America's 14 best integrated communities. Through publicity, WMAN showed the nation that it is possible to have a stably integrated neighborhood and set an example for others to follow. West Mount Airy was the first purposefully and stably integrated neighborhood in the country because of the work of WMAN. They pioneered tactics to fight off the blockbusting, racism, and segregation that was, during the time period, a norm. These tactics included convincing their city council to ban for sale and sold signs, going door to door to inform people that integration would not harm them financially, creating panels of mixed races to speak to each other, and improving the neighborhood around them, actions that were revolutionary at the time. In the 50s and 60s, many other neighborhoods, including Shaker Heights, Ohio, Oak Park, Illinois, as well as South Orange, Maplewood, and Pennsauken, New Jersey, followed WMAN's example in integration and copied their methods.
Talking about our experiences in Mount Airy, and she was saying when she and her partner were at a restaurant, they didn't feel comfortable holding hands. And I said, come on, in this day and age, come on. You know, people accept everybody now. And she said, Yvonne, you've lived in West Mount Airy too long.